Only a handful of people remain now in the grand ballroom of the Statler Hilton Hotel, where just a short time ago the room was jam-packed as Secretary of the Treasury John B. Connally made his entrance for a brief but powerful speech to the 89th Annual Convention of the State Bar of Texas. During his about 20-minute address, the Secretary touched on a number of points, all of them economic, dealing with unemployment, inflation, China's emergence as a power during the 70s, the SST program, and even our balance of payments, our trade problems. About the SST, the Secretary divided our balance of payments into what he called 4 parts. In one of those, fuel and oil, he said we were about even on imports and exports. On 2 others, we were running at a $7 billion annual deficit. But in the 4th category, that of high technology, we had been enjoying a surplus of $9 billion, mainly the result of our exporting large numbers of jet aircraft. And on this subject, the Secretary had some of his strongest words.
Let's analyze it. I'm not for one moment suggesting that we do anything other than what we're doing in terms of the winding down of the war. We have decreased our defense procurement. We have decreased the amount of research that goes in to the defense establishment and all of the facets of that, including medicine. We've made very substantial reductions in the space program and all that flows from the research in that field. And believe it or not, in the area where we generate more favorable trade balances than any other single commodity, and where we dominate 85% of all the world's utilization of commercial aircraft, this nation, unbelievably, has in the past few months refused to live up to its role of leadership in supporting the development of a supersonic transport, which to me is incredible in the light of what's happening in this world. Now,
Secretary Connally also drew a strong round of applause when he started talking about foreign aid and the amount of money we have spent on other nations. He referred to it as hundreds of billions of dollars, but had this to say about who's going to take care of us.
A few security and maintenance people are all that are left of the better than 8,000 employees of Bell Helicopter's giant plant in Hurst. For the first time in 14 years, everybody's taking a vacation at the same time. Gone are the headaches of staggering shifts. There aren't any problems of rescheduling work around a vacationing employee. There's no fighting over the choice vacation times. Everybody goes at once, and that's that. But we all know the real reason for this procedure. Instead of having to spend 6 months of working time listening to 8,000 vacation stories, everybody will have told of his adventures to anybody who'll listen during the first day back on the job. Then the plant can get down to producing helicopters for another year. Jay Lewis, Channel 8 News on the Move.
Late last evening, about 7 o'clock, I received a telephone call from Dr. Jaffe in the White House, and he said that he wanted us to know, and wanted the people down here to know, that the White House is committed to the Fort Worth, Dallas area having as good a drug center as there is anywhere in the United States. Now, the place in Fort Worth is not suited to treating people who do not require some security. So the other centers, and they'll have teams down here within the next couple of weeks looking at both Dallas and Fort Worth as to where they may put these drug centers. And this does not mean that the center in Fort Worth will not be used for narcotic people who require security. But the White House said you can tell them that you have a commitment that the Dallas-Fort Worth area will have one of the finest drug centers there is in the United States.
Are we talking about one center, Congressman?
Probably two.
I think you have to be more selective than you are today if you're given more than 30 scholarships in football. There are some what we think would be side benefits of this that would be helpful to the program. It would be helpful to the student athletes. Some people think it's wrong to recruit 12 quarterbacks. They all think they're great. They're all great high school kiddos. But in that freshman year, somewhere along the line, somebody's going to be the 12th quarterback on that team. And he's going to be a very unhappy boy. It's going to undoubtedly affect his education. And that, we don't feel, is a good thing, really, for the boy now. We're looking at the boy in this case, and not the institution. So you would have to be selective. At the same time, it may equalize competition. It may create greater competition than ever before.
Poverty, suffering, abuse, exploitation, police brutality, lack of opportunity. It's still there.
No improvement?
Yes, we have improved. So we improve what saddens me so much that we have improved not because of love but understand because of pressure. We have been treated as inferiors. We have been treated to be treated as inferiors. We are denied the two major precepts of the beauty of the American system of government, which is education. We are denied. We're denied in Texas all over the state. We are denied a fair trial by jury. The Mexican Americans, all right now, serving now in the juries, are excluded by either preemptory challenges or any other thing you want to. We are not in the jury. So therefore, in the system of government that denies the minority group education and justice, there's nothing left for us.
Senator Braniff.
Yes.
Can the plight of the Mexican Americans be improved in Austin, as far as Texas is concerned?
It can be, sure. It's the best vehicle, I'm sure, in which we could apply some of the actions that would bring about equity and justice.
Do you feel you're discriminated against in Austin as a senator?
No, not personally.
I've searched out mayors in Washington, D.C. at a law enforcement conference, at an international meeting of mayors from all over the world in Indianapolis, the U.S. Mayors Conference in Philadelphia. I've attended innumerable seminars on the subject. I've wrestled with it for 2 years as a councilman and a few weeks as mayor, and have initiated a study at our own city hall. And I have come to the definite conclusion that Dallas and Fort Worth, like other great cities, though possibly to a lesser extent than some other great cities, should and must have general revenue sharing. But we must first have a new sensitivity from our fellow elected officials at the state level, officials who proceed to insult us, and a new sensitivity from our fellow elected officials at the national level who proceed to ignore the officials of the cities and counties. When we of the cities ask for money literally to survive, we're not asking for a dole. We feel that this is money that rightly belongs to the local communities from which it originated.
Well, the club in Salonica wants me to go there and participate in the pre-season training, you know. And of course, the club here in Dallas, they want me to stay here until the season is over.
When will the preseason training begin for the Salonica team?
Beginning of August.
How many games would that knock you out of as a Tornado?
Well, I think it's 4 or 5 league games. And of course, if we get to go to the playoffs, that's another maybe 5 games, you know.
Is there a chance, do you feel, that Salonica will agree to your staying here for those games?
I really don't know. It's I hope they will, because I want to stay here. I mean, honestly, I do. But I really don't know, because they consider pre-season training, you know, very serious thing to do.
Well, then the Tornado will have a working agreement with Salonica.
Oh yeah.
That you can come over here.
Yeah, during the summer.
How many of the early games would you miss?
Well, if they agree on something like that, I'll be here sometime around end of May.
Then does that mean you would have to leave every August to go back over for the preseason training?
Well, I'd say August, yeah, either beginning of or middle of August, but it's going to be August, definitely.
So Tornado would have you from May to August, then?
Something like this,
And
yeah.
Salonica would have you the rest of the time?
The rest of the time, yeah.
Fireworks are a universal sign of celebration. From the birth of a baby boy in Japan to the Roman candles being set off in the United States on the 4th of July. Fireworks, however, are prohibited within the Dallas city limits, and for a very good reason, according to authorities. Last 4th of July, approximately $189,000 of property damage and fire loss was accredited to fireworks. The Dallas Fire Department is making a concerted effort to tell the public the damages involved with fireworks. I talked to Chief Ernest Emerson of the Fire Department and asked him what is involved and what the damage really is.
Well, it's a very serious problem, of course. During the holiday season last year, we had 35 fires in which loss was sustained. I believe you pointed out the loss ran somewhere in the neighborhood of 200,000. This year already we've had some very serious losses. Let me illustrate by showing you this. This is the remains of a parachute rocket. It's propelled into the air quite some distance, and an explosion occurs, and this parachute is dropped to earth. And should it land on a roof, and this one did, you're going to have a fire, and it could be a very serious fire.
Well, how successful are efforts to police fireworks offenders?
Well, it's all going to depend on just how successful our intensive educational program will be, and we have hopes, of course, that it will be quite successful.
What is the punishment for the offender?
In the city of Dallas, it can carry up to a $200 fine.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Emerson.
Donna.
This is Donna Witkowski reporting News 8 on the Move, wishing you a safe and happy 4th of July.
I don't see any hope for it. I think it'll continue in what you call the slump now. The programs, two big programs of the shuttle and the Skylab that are going on now is going to require a funding level in the next couple of 3 years that, as of now, the administration is not committing themselves to it at all. They're committing themselves to a budget about what we have now, about $3.1 billion.
Do you think it could even get lower than what it is?
I think it could.
Is this slump so bad now is because the American people are adverse to any more space exploration? Do they feel the problems at home can be solved before we go and create some in outer space?
Well, I don't believe it's American people at all. I go all over this country, and wherever I go, I find tremendous interest in the space program. I think it's leadership within our government. I think we're making a big mistake by not going ahead with our space program. It's in the leadership of the government, not in the people of our country. I go to high schools and all over this country, and the interest I find in the space program is great.
What kind of space program do you think we should have?
I think we should have one at a funding of about $4 to $6 billion. And what the Russians have just done is their Skylab, or space station up there, is something we can't do for 2 or 3 years. So there are a number of ways the Russians are ahead of us. I think we should have gone ahead with a number of programs that we have cut off in the space field.
You say leadership. Are you blaming specifically the Nixon administration for the fall down or let down of it?
I'm blaming the Nixon administration. I'm blaming the Democratic Congress. I'm blaming the whole leadership of our government.
If the citizens in this area will please have any trash that they want to have picked up at their curbside of their own yard. We will have augmented crews out there. In other words, this will be a concentrated cleanup program within this area for the entire week. And as we've tried to explain in our release, and of course also on the back of this, in case, let's say, that you didn't get your the things you wanted picked up on Wednesday and the truck goes by, well, you can call this number and we'll circle back by and try to accommodate every citizen's needs. And you know this doesn't have to be in plastic bags. I knew I was going to catch that. You know, and I know that we're not talking about the regular kind of garbage that you're going to put out twice a week. That's going to take place anyhow. This is in addition to this. This is anything. It's that old refrigerator that's sitting around, that old stove. It's that old broken down chair that you know, the little woman has been trying to get rid of, or old dad's been trying to get rid of. It's these things that you keep thinking, I must dispose of that, and yet I just don't want to, you know, have to call somebody and hire it done. Well, you don't have to call anybody, honey, because Fort Worth is going to do it for you.